Welcome to the Costa Rica Travel and Living Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Baker. Again, this is your podcast that discusses everything about living in this part of the world in Central America. Today, my guest is Maite Joaristi. Maite is a local San Josefina who's been born and raised here in Costa Rica all her life. She had a passion for tourism and went to study and work in Holland for 5 years before moving to Thailand to work at a high-end hotel over there before she decided pre-pandemic to come back to Costa Rica, and then following that got a job with Costa Rican Vacations. And Maite is a top high-end Costa Rican travel consultant. And I wanted to chat with Maite about all the joy and the passion that job brings. What does it entail? What's it like planning these high-end vacations? What are some of her favorite areas in the country to visit? And of course, what are some of the misconceptions about doing the job that is a travel consultant role? As ever, please, guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, give us a like or a thumbs up wherever you happen to be listening. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to never miss an episode. So without further ado, let's get chatting with Maite. Hey, Maite, how are you doing? Good morning.
Hi, Adam. Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. It looks very nice and tropical where you are. Where do we
It
find you?
is. I'm in Santana. It's the outskirts of San Jose.
Nice. And is it particularly warm where you are?
It's pretty okay right now. It did get a little bit more warm yesterday around midday. It was around 35 degrees, so it's warm.
Yeah, that's pushing 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, that's pretty warm.
Yeah.
I always find it funny, as I mentioned to you earlier, when you come down from San Jose or that plateau where the city is, and you drop down even 10 minutes outside and you go to like Santana and around, it could be another 5, 6, 7 degrees warmer down there. Crazy.
That's Costa Rica for you.
That's Costa Rica. Well, as ever, I would like to kind of hear a little bit about your backstory, about what got you into tourism before we really try to unpack what is a day in the life of being a travel consultant. So how did it all start for you?
So it all started just after high school. I wanted to do something with hotels, tourism, because it's such a big part of, Costa Rica, the economy, everything. I went to the Netherlands, to Amsterdam, studied there for 4 years, did an internship in Thailand, and then post-pandemic kind of situation. I came back to Costa Rica. A friend of a friend worked in Costa Rican Vacations. I applied, and here I am.
Wow. Did you have any expectation that Costa Rica might be similar in terms of tourism as you found it in Thailand?
So yes and no. I was working in Phuket. Phuket, I mean, obviously there's the high luxury side that I worked at a hotel that was high luxury, at the Hyatt. But obviously there's the big part of people just going there, backpacking, partying it up. So there's very different sides of it. I mean, I guess Costa Rica as well. I wouldn't say Costa Rica is that much of a backpacking destination because it's not as cheap as Thailand is.
Yeah.
But there are certain parts that are similar. Like, I mean, the beaches are beautiful in Thailand. Beaches are beautiful here. I mean, the tropical kind of background in both areas do kind of align.
That's an interesting point. When I first came to Costa Rica, I was traveling back in 06, and I was traveling with my sister, and we were doing that attempt to kind of backpacking around using public transport, finding cheap options. And you are right, it's certainly not as cheap as somewhere like Thailand. And I know that you mentioned previously, so you were studying in Holland. When you came back, I'm sure many of your friends were interested in traveling to Costa Rica. Have they come over since, and did they do the backpacking experience?
So we had a couple of ones because it wasn't only when I came back to Costa Rica during like summer vacations. I had a bunch of people that were like, "We're coming with you," and I'm like, "Okay." So with some friends, we road trip Costa Rica, just literally with like a tent, and we just road tripped, camped, ate wherever we were. So that was one situation. Then other girlfriends came. They're not the camping type, so we stayed a little bit more of like Airbnbs. My aunt has a house down in Vita, so it was just kind of like hopping around with connections I had. And then obviously, well, now I'm in the more high end travel. So I think I've had kind of like a mix of all the different experiences, and I've been able to share this experience with so many different people with very different like, looking for different experiences. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's kind of like a big thing about being a travel consultant, reading the people, reading what they want to do. And I mean, Costa Rica is beautiful. So in any way you do it, you're gonna have an amazing time. There's no way you can be here and be grumpy, like in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's really true. And you have a really interesting background of high-end travel in other countries as well, in the tropics like Thailand, but
Mm-hmm.
also the experience of backpacking. And it's not something we've actually touched on any of the episodes on this podcast. What quickly, it'd be really interesting to mention for anybody that's thinking about maybe traveling to Costa Rica on a smaller budget. What can travelers, be it from Europe or North America, what can they expect when they're traveling and they want to do a road trip and they want to backpack?
I mean, if you want a road trip, if you have a car, then I think that kind of simplifies things. Like you mentioned in the '06, you were here
Yeah,
with public
yeah,
transportation. To me, that's kind of like the most hindering factor in backpacking in Costa Rica, just because you don't know where you're going to be, what time you're going to be anywhere, because it's unreliable, the public transportation.
yeah,
If you have a car and you kind of want to go off on your own, stay at hostels, the whole thing, I think that's definitely doable. I mean, the hostels here, I mean, there's very simple ones that are very cheap.
yeah.
There's, the other ones that have popped up that are a little bit nicer, but it's definitely doable. And I mean, it's a nice experience if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. I have noticed in the last maybe 20 years the interesting mix between the what used to be the smaller hostels with maybe a shared dorm, or maybe you've got an
Mm-hmm.
ensuite bedroom and it's pretty basic, between this mix between two-star hotels. So like what is it called? Not Serenas. What's that?
Salinas.
Salinas, yeah, a popular brand, global brand now of high-end hostels. So you get that
Yeah,
full experience without having to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars. But again, they're not nearly as cheap as standard hostels, right? But it feels like there's an
absolutely.
interesting middle ground there for travelers who
It
want a
is.
bit more but don't want to pay a normal hotel experience.
Yeah, and Salinas and all those like kind of like nicer hostels have really, I think, spoken to like the digital nomads.
Yeah.
It does have that nice like, community feeling because they do a bunch of stuff. They have the offices and everything. So I mean if you're looking to kind of, work and do a little bit of
Get
relaxing, I
out.
mean I think it's a good, yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
fit.
Yeah, really, really interesting. Maybe we should do a whole episode just on the backpacking experience. That would do a trip down memory lane.
I will volunteer to go
Excellent. We'll
backpacking and
get you back
offer the
on.
experience.
But no, to the topic of today, it's an interesting one because there's sometimes there's misconceptions about your role as a travel consultant, especially when you're working high end. And I wanted to
Mhm.
kind of open the gates as it is, to discuss with you a little bit more. What is your day to day like, and how does it vary throughout the year? Obviously, based on the travel seasons in Costa Rica. So, give me your breakdown of a day in the life of a travel consultant.
So as you mentioned, it may look very different in January, which is peak season, to September, which is low season. High season, it's work, work, work. You're up and you're going. It's people planning their trips. I think it comes from like a time where people get together with their families. People are speaking about their next vacations. People are just ready to go, and you have to be ready to go as
Yeah,
well. Um, Being in this job, like one of the things that is the most important is being available and being efficient in your responses in your time, because I mean there's the internet. The internet has a lot of information. If you're not responsive, then someone might go book on their own, or they might just like, go with someone else. So being responsive is the most important thing. In January, honestly, you're working pretty much all day. Obviously, the good thing is that you do have flexibility. You don't have to be sitting at your desk 24 hours a day. We have these nice little things
yeah,
where you can respond via email. So, I mean, you can tell them, "Hey, I'm out of the office. I'll be right back, and I'll answer all your questions." But January peak season is very busy. You're not going anywhere. You're not traveling. You're not going to other hotels. Um, and then in September, October, the slower season, it's a really nice time because we got to go on CPLs, which is hotels giving us free nights, or we go on fam trips where we just go to different inspections, which I really enjoy because this moment is like when you're getting all the information, all the details that you can't see on a website. You can do the activities, and then you can really speak to your travelers like, I've been there, this is what I liked, I don't think this is a good match because you said this. So it's a very important, like obviously the whole year is very important because peak season you're getting all your travelers booked on vacations, but low season is also really important because you're seeing everything the hotels have done, new things, whatever, so you're updating your knowledge and getting ready for high season as well.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, it follows the trends of the weather pattern, right? In the Northern Hemisphere, especially North America or Europe,
Mm-hmm.
when it gets cold up there, late December, but then as you say, mentally you go into January going, okay, we're going to be working an awful lot, 10, 12-hour days.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people interested in traveling. Obviously, it's freezing up north. They want to get their vacations
Also.
in, not just for February and March, right? Because our high season runs through to April, to the Easter weeks. And March, I've noticed even this past March has been crazy busy with, clients getting in touch, wanting to plan vacations. And it must be quite exciting, right? Because you do enter April, May, June, having this availability to do fam trips, familiarization trips with groups, CPLs, as you mentioned, complimentary trips. And we're obviously lucky enough to get service fees. So you have the flexibility of traveling at your own leisure when it kind of slows down a little bit. Would you say that skill set of kind of knowing the properties year over year, that must be a massive advantage, for example, over a travel agent in the country, say a travel agent in the States, that can help you out, but maybe they only visit the country once or twice every few years? I'm saying it's a pretty large advantage, right? Being in the country and
It's
seeing these properties all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And hotels don't stay the same. Hotels are also like making upgrades, they're
Yeah.
changing things, remodeling rooms. But not only that, I feel like going to a property, all hotels have different energies, all hotels have different vibes and just, style. And you can't really tell through pictures, you can't really tell through websites. We've been to the hotels, we've I don't know, had a lunch there or stayed over. And it's just really nice to get the overall sense of a hotel before you match it with a traveler, because that is what is the most important. You're going to be
Yeah.
staying at this hotel. Is it really a match for your clients, or is it not? And I think the best way to do that is through someone that has been to these places.
Yeah.
You can't really do that on your own or with a travel agent that's not here on the ground.
Yeah. No, 100%. What would you say are some of the key skills or qualifications that someone should possess to be a good salesperson? Because you came from a tourism studying background.
Mm-hmm.
You worked in Europe, you were in Holland, you came back, and ultimately it's a sales job in tourism. So what would you say, works well for someone looking for that area of expertise?
I would say it's two things. Kind of it all comes down to two things: organization and passion. Organization, because you're busy all day. There's like three emails coming in at the same time.
Yeah.
You have to really have your day or like your process set up, be on top of all your things. And then passion, because if you're passionate about the country, if you're passionate about what you're doing, if you're passionate about the experiences people are having, then I think the sales kind of is something you can train. Like we get trainings, you learn a little bit on the go, you see your colleagues and you kind of get a little bit of their style, get a little bit of another, and you kind of like all blend it into your own personal style. But that kind of comes from being organized and passionate about what you're doing. And the passion is just something that either you have it or you kind of don't.
Yeah. True.
But yeah, and it is really special what we do. Like people, they save up money to come to this beautiful country and they're trusting you to put this amazing experience, maybe for the family, maybe for a honeymoon. And to me, that just brings me a lot of like fulfillment. Sometimes people come back and they're like, this is the best thing I've ever done. Like, I want to come back. And it's like, oh,
That's
I'm
nice.
happy you enjoyed my country. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that must be extra special because I speak to a lot of expats predominantly on this podcast, speaking about travel and living and maybe moving abroad or relocating. It must be doubly special for you being Costa Rican, being able to present that. Obviously, you're proud of your country and it is a really beautiful country, but that must have an extra, I don't know, an extra incentive, maybe quite
Yeah,
close, especially because you've
absolutely.
traveled abroad as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's just such a special country. I think like not only the geographical and like flora and fauna, but also the people here are genuinely such nice people. And like this is something that always comes back in like welcome home and all those like contact after the vacation. People
Yeah.
always mention Costa Ricans, how sweet, how helpful they are. And just to me, like Costa Rica and Costa Rican people hold a very special place in my heart. So it's just really nice to see how someone coming from somewhere else, maybe someone that has never traveled before, and they come to get this experience and they just, they love it and it just warms my heart.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah, no, it's lovely to hear. I remember feeling when I'd been in Costa Rica for a couple of years before I started as a travel consultant initially when I began
Hmm.
it. And I remember really enjoying passing that passion on for the country. It's not like you're selling bathroom supplies or life insurance, right?
Exactly.
It's actually something that you're really passionate about. And I think it's quite easy to be enthusiastic about such a beautiful country because you're selling an experience that you're never really going to forget,
Absolutely.
right?
And
Uh,
like also, sorry, can I
yeah, yeah, go for it.
like I remember very clearly when I was small and like the first time I went to Corcovado or Manuel Antonio, and I
Uh-huh.
still remember that. So I can't imagine for someone that's coming from a really different place or a kid, 10 years
Yeah.
old, you're coming to see the monkeys and the sloths. Like that's something that's going to be ingrained in your memory forever. And to me, that's just really, really special.
That's a really good point, and I wonder sometimes that for those people who have been doing it for a number of years, we always talk about the key locations. If you're coming to Costa Rica for the first time, going to the volcano, maybe Arenal, doing some tours, then heading the beach for your
Yeah.
traditional 7 to 8 days. It can get repetitive for you to sell it, but again, it's always for the first time for first time travelers, right? Because they're coming down and they haven't seen these amazing things. What are some of the more unique destinations that you like to push, maybe for a returning guest? So they've already done your typical maybe Guanacaste Beach or Manuel Antonio. They've seen the Arenal volcano. Is there a special part of the country that you would like to push?
I mean, I always like to push for my adventurous and kind of, biodiversity focused travelers, the southern Corcovado, Osa, all of that,
Yeah.
because it's the last frontier of Costa Rica. It's this magical little land in the south part of Costa Rica. There's 3% of the world's biodiversity or more. Now they're saying six. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
But it's just it's magical. I was there with my brother in Nicuesta Lodge
Uh-huh.
not so long ago. Oh my God, it's just
Stunning.
crazy. Like at night, we went out to a dock and there were thousands of baby manta rays coming to eat by the by the
Yeah.
light. There was a shark. It's just like it just blows my mind. And I mean, also coming back to Arenal and Manuel Antonio and Guanacaste, yeah, sometimes it's repetitive to like kind of sell that, but also when I go again, I'm like, wow, this
That's
never
right.
gets old. So,
It
I
reminds you of
mean,
how awesome these places are, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it
I,
never gets old.
it's one thing I've enjoyed chatting on these podcasts to different people that live all over the country, do different, have different professions. They're really passionate always for Costa Rica. And it reminds you, I'm based here in my home office just outside of San Jose, but it's always the same. And it's always like, it's really invigorating to hear it through other people as well. So you can remember what an experience is when you get out for the first
Yeah.
time. Interestingly, what would you say are the misconceptions that people have about the role of a travel consultant?
Okay, so I mean, as a travel consultant, a lot of people think it's very flexible. It is very flexible, but
Yeah.
in the sense that maybe you have a lot of free time to kind of lounge around. But no, this is like kind of the opposite of that because it's not a 9 to 5 job. It's not something that you're on, you're working, and then you're off. No, you're the person that's in contact with travelers and hotels, and you're the key point in the structure. So you have to be available pretty much always. And obviously it's fine to have a life. It's obviously fine to take some time off, but you do have to be available. You have to be responsive to your clients. They're trusting you with their vacation. You have to earn that trust. You have to build that trust. So being available in all sorts of ways, like I now meet with my clients via Google Meet sometimes because
Oh,
they want to
brilliant.
see you're a real person,
Yeah.
and see where you live, everything. And connecting person to person is, I mean, something that takes time, something that you have to be available for. So I would say that's kind of like the biggest misconception. Just, yeah, you have to be available for sure.
Yeah, it's a good point because a lot of people think that, obviously I do think it's to a degree a life of luxury, right? Whether you're Costa
It is,
Rican or whether
oh,
you're foreign,
100%.
we work in high-end travel and we're promoting this wonderful little country. But it can be every time. I remember back in the day speaking to my dad, who's back in the UK, every time I would call him, he thought I was sipping, on cocktails or coconuts from some kind of exotic pool. And I go, oh, I tried to make an effort to only call him when I was, but it wasn't that consistent. So I
No,
do, you are quite busy. Um,
you are quite busy.
what about like any unexpected challenges during a client stay? How do you handle those situations?
So for that, I always think honesty is the best policy.
Yeah.
Kind of being upfront with what went wrong, what happened. And then obviously we do have our travel experience team for clients that are in country. These guys are fantastic. They know everything. They're on top of absolutely everything. They will find a solution to whatever goes wrong. Obviously we try to not get into those situations, but
Yeah.
if something does happen, they'll be available. They're going to help you. You're going to have someone that has your back always here in Costa Rica, which I think brings a lot of peace of mind to many travelers. They're coming to a different country. They don't speak the language, that sort of thing. And travel experience team is just there. It's just a message away, and they'll help with whatever you need, be it a big mistake or restaurant recommendations, or I had a client who chipped their tooth and they had to go to the dentist. So,
Wow.
they're just there to help with whatever you need.
Yeah. Yeah. You never know what's going to happen, right? Crazy
You
monkey
know,
stealing your stuff,
yeah, there
losing
we
your
go.
phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my
I
God.
was
No.
wondering, do you have any like a kind of a curveball question when it comes to reviews and clients provide you feedback and hopefully, it's usually positive. What are some of the common things that you've read in reviews about maybe an experience they weren't expecting to get when using a travel consultant?
I mean, I think that most people that end up booking with us are happy that they did so. Most of the reviews that you get is like, oh my God, I didn't have to worry about anything. And yeah, that's the whole idea. You just get
Yeah.
here and you enjoy. So I think that's like the biggest thing. Also, like a lot of people think that by booking with a travel consultant, you're getting higher prices. You're not. You're getting absolutely the same prices for hotels or even better because we have rates that are just from a contract. And then you get that extra backup of the travel experience team of us being here. If you need to change something, we're just here to help with whatever they need. And that I think comes back in the reviews, just people being like, just relieved. They had a beautiful time. They didn't have to worry about anything. And I do find that most of the time, if there is a little glitch and you're there to help, travel experience, solves whatever happens, then they're even happier because they know someone was there to help them. They weren't like just left out there in the cold by
Yeah.
themselves, something that could happen potentially if they book on their own.
Yeah.
So overall, yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And I remember when trying to book trips myself by myself in
Mhm.
other countries, the idea of our travel experience team being based here 24/7, I haven't seen that in many other countries where that you
No.
have a team set up in the country if anything does go wrong or even have a question. It's not like you book on Expedia and you booked a king bed and then you get there and it's like two singles, like who's
Yeah.
going to solve that problem for you inside half an hour? Those kind of, I guess it gives you a lot of peace of mind as a client.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, it's everything and they can do anything, solve anything. So it's
Yeah.
just really nice to have that backup. And coming back to like Costa Rica, it's a small country, but it's a country that there's a lot of logistics to traveling around it because it's not, just straight highways everywhere.
Yes,
No, it's
it's
like
true.
winding roads, it's ferries, it's different things, and it's just being taken care of in a strange country is a
Yeah.
nice feeling.
Yeah, no, I fully agree, and I still think that's one of the biggest selling points. People do ask a lot, about booking a travel agent. You mentioned the prices. I think that's a good point. I discussed this on a previous podcast. as an agency, you offer exactly the same rates directly as the hotels, if not better, and the hotel, give us a commission. It's a pretty simple way of working. So it's hard to find a reason as to why you wouldn't ask a travel consultant to help you out when you're there for the client, right? To give them that bespoke experience.
Yeah. I mean, there's really no reason not to
Yeah.
not to book with us.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, right?
Unless you want something to go wrong and kind of like, I don't know. I had this very funny traveler. He was like, "No, but it's gonna be too perfect."
So
Which is really funny.
he wants something to be off,
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he did end up booking, and he was really happy. Nothing went wrong. So
That's
he was
good.
just
Well,
joking
that's
around.
that, like we were talking in the beginning, that's like the backpacking experience. You can
Yeah.
take a car, maybe the GPS doesn't work, you don't know what time you'll
Oh my
arrive
God.
or where you're staying, but you'll stay somewhere.
Or
Uh,
your tires in the
yeah,
bumpy roads.
exactly. What would you say some of the most rewarding aspects of the job and working here?
For me, it's the flexibility. I personally, it's the flexibility, the ability to know my country a little better. There's, little hidden gems and everything, and being able to share that with people is also really magical. But at the end of the day, what really, really just gets to me is when people come back to you and they're like, "Wow, that was amazing, and I want to come back." Or I remember my first client ever. She came down here with her grandson, and she was, I don't know, she just wanted to come to Costa Rica. They came here. The grandson graduated from high school, and then he studied something with biology because he came here to Manuel Antonio, and he
Wow.
just loved it so much, and that always just kind of stayed with me. And it's just like these, Costa Rica really, marks people, and I love that.
That's really nice. That's defined his career path potentially in his
Yeah,
life. Coming down, being
exactly.
influenced Costa Rica, amazing. Oh, that's really, really nice. Yeah, I can see that would have a
Yeah,
lasting impact. No, but you're creating it's our catchphrase, right? But creating memories through the joy of travel, lifelong memories through the joy of travel. So it's very, very
yeah.
true. I did want to ask you, one of our last questions is, as someone who's
Mhm.
deeply involved in Costa Rica's luxury travel scene as you are, what advice might you give someone looking to start a career in this field, not just tourism, could be a travel consultant here in Costa Rica?
First of all, get on the road, get to know Costa Rica, get to know everything about it, really, the destinations, the people, everything. If you like that, if you're passionate about that, I would say apply and kind of, get in the groove of it, go through the training, learn a little bit more about sales, all of that type of thing. Um, and then, yeah, then you'll be here living the life, working, sharing your experience with people. And it's just overall, it's a really good time. Obviously, it's hard work, but it's really rewarding. And yeah, it's very enjoyable.
Fantastic. Do you see yourself here for the long term? Now that you've obviously traveled to
Yeah.
Europe, you've been to Thailand, you're working in high-end Costa Rica tourism.
I mean, I love it here, honestly. Like when I was in Holland, I missed my mountains and the beach. When I was
Uh-huh.
in Thailand, I missed my people. So, I mean, Costa Rica really is home for me, and I see myself staying here for a really long time.
Wonderful. And lastly, when you take some time off for yourself, perhaps in the low season, where do you go to in Costa Rica to disconnect?
Well, I personally love Puerto Viejo. It's also a slower season for us.
Uh-huh.
So I love heading that way. I mean, the food there is just ridiculous how delicious it
Yeah.
is. The beaches, it's very different from the rest of Costa Rica. So I really enjoy going there. And then, I mean, if I do get the chance of going to somewhere like Southern Pacific, Costa, Huita, all of those places are
Yeah.
really good. And yeah, I've been lucky to visit a lot of different properties and a lot of different places. So yeah, just, I mean, anywhere that I can go to, I'll go
Yeah.
to. But I do love Puerto Viejo and that area.
It is beautiful. It does take a while to get there, maybe 4 or 5 hour
It does.
drive, as long as it's not too wet. But yeah, it's such a
Yeah.
beautiful area and still relatively untouched. I know there's a couple of larger boutique hotels which are really nice to visit, but in terms of the Caribbean coast, the clarity of the
Yeah.
water, the vibe of the area, the food is delicious. It is a place, and I feel like there is internet, of course there is, but you can disconnect easier being on that side of
It
the globe.
is. It's just a little bit further away from everything. And yeah, it's just beautiful. I mean, Aguas Claras, I'm
Yeah,
in love with that property.
it's
My
beautiful.
cousin got married there as well. And
Oh,
it's just,
nice.
yeah, I love it. So yeah,
Perfect.
just the Caribbean in general.
Well, Maite, it's been really, really nice chatting to you. I appreciate your time, and obviously learning a little bit more about your role as a travel consultant and what that entails. Hopefully, that might encourage a few more people to be interested in the job. But of course, traveling to Costa Rica in general. So, thank you very much for chatting with me.
Thank you, Adam.
I'll make sure to put your information in the description box below. So if anybody wants to reach out
Amazing.
directly to chat with you about planning a vacation, potentially Puerto Viejo or even the Osa Peninsula in the future, they can
Ooh,
do so.
hopefully.
And hopefully get you back on very soon to discuss backpacking.
Yeah. Sounds good, Adam. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Bye bye.
All right, bye.
Well, I really enjoyed that informative chat with Maite. I hope you guys learn a lot as well about what it means to be a travel consultant and planning these wonderful, memorable trips to Costa Rica and what an impact it can have on all of our guests and clients coming down to visit Costa Rica. If you want to get in touch with Maite, you can find her contact information in the description box below, and she'll be more than happy to answer any questions and even plan a Costa Rican vacation for you. As ever, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this episode, and of course, hit subscribe so you never miss out on one of our episodes. I'd love to hear from you as well. What do you want to hear about regarding everything travel and living related to Costa Rica? And I'll get straight back to you and maybe even do a future podcast on one of your themes. So from me, Adam Baker, until next time, hasta la próxima.